Hello. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Paul, Speakeasy Paul, for asking me to read a couple of poems on his platform. Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate it very much. I'd like to read maybe three poems. One is about setting out, and the other one is returning from Hamburg, and the other one is being in East Mayo again. And I lived in Hamburg for more than 30 years. And I set out all those years ago intending to stay for a little while, and it lasted a lot longer. But the first poem I'm going to read is called Setting Out. Before broadband here, there and everywhere, a long-haired youth slunk so far into foothills that he lost sight of home and home lost sight of him. A glutton for pilgrim habits, he traipsed and tracked from land to land, village, seashore, and city, chasing star after elusive star, dreaming from inside out, considering a bond with the devil and alien recipes, when he chanced upon a room just a stone's throw from a voice in first person, yet far enough from the yowl and yelp of his home crowd. At first he turned to his nag, wondering if it would be best not to have a now at all. But looking up at cloud pockets, sunsets, life and half-life, he knew he'd have to comment on the underbelly of fortune, if only to blame. Then, suddenly, out of the blue, like a whole shebang of hammer and tongs in a gut full of pig iron, he blurted out from his high horse, "I will. Words are mine to speak." And I often think that's a kind of a statement that could apply to anybody of just going away, trying to get established and finding your feet. And I found my feet in Hamburg many, many years ago, over 30 years, as I said, in the city. And now I have returned to live again in Kiledon, County Mayo, Kiledon, Cultimach, County Mayo, where I grew up. It's a big shock, it's a big change, but it's very interesting as well. I loved Hamburg, a city, and I have two notes for home, I say, in a poem I've written, but I won't read it now. But this is called Auf Wiedersehen, Hamburg. And it tells a story of, finding your feet, coming to terms with a new culture, new people, and finally deciding to leave, and leaving also my son and his wife and children. But it's another positive experience. Auf Wiedersehen, Hamburg. Auf Wiedersehen until we meet again. Auf Wiedersehen, Hamburg. I'd found it hard to knock on doors back then. It was all new, and I didn't have the right words to put my kind of smile on faces as I stood there with little to say. The doors often closed, and I'd wonder at pedestrian crossings when people stood in silent clusters waiting for lights to guide them. I'd peer into my pale dictionary to find that words like Brötchen got your bread rolls on request, and I'd loiter round ways of saying, "How do you say that?" or "I wish to apply for fragrance." I was a sinister consumer in an extravaganza of street life and bulging waterways. It was all too clean and silent, but it must have been that silence that got me wanting to begin to plant a spring in my step. And believe me, there were voices telling me, "You're turning away. You've no right to enjoy yourself." But Mondays wove into Fridays in Hamburg, Saturdays wove into Sundays in Hamburg, and I walked about as free of guilt as a summer wisp. That new day became decades. If you stay on the road too long, you miss the turn, I'm told. And homeward bound and home are only divided by dreary geography. I've had my say. So it's back to old objects and curiosity, to cows and sheep that stare you in the face without blinking. Joanna, Matthew and I close one door to open another. Sean with Britt, Emma and Tom remain in my outstretched arms. Without plans, nothing is terrifying. Even in white smoke, Knowledge takes its time to work on the heart. Another silence waits. We're leaving. And leaving we did. And I've come back to East Mayo, where I grew up, Kiledon Cultima, the birthplace of the great poet Anthony Raftery. And it's also my birthplace. And this is called Home Ground. I'm back on home ground, where these days farmers flaunt and preen in shorts without fear of ridicule. Daughters study ag and rock up on tractors, while partners and others drink carrot juice and cappuccinos in convivial company, discussing wellness, bargains, divorce, settlements, and good options. It didn't used to be this way. There were forms of incarceration and torture that included till death do us part, listening to sermons on Sundays or doing time in black pudding bogs. Between showers there were harvests to make you so mental that even crows hovering and picking in circles of their choice considered your carcass if they hung around till cloud nine set in. Mangy black cats entrusted with rodent control had it better. You know, that's the 3 poems, so thank you very much, Paul. I suppose that last poem, Home Ground, seemed a bit pessimistic, but in those days I wasn't a happy farmer's son. Now I see it with different eyes. Thank you very much.